Hey guys, AR-15 guy here. So, I've watched some videos, I've piped in on some conversations on Facebook. I have, about the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman case. Here's my 2 cents on it. It's not a racial case. It's not a race case. I don't believe that either Trayvon or George Zimmerman are either one racist. I think they were in a heated situation. Trayvon was annoyed because Zimmerman was following him, and Zimmerman was kind of trying to figure out what was going on. They'd had some break-ins in their neighborhood. I totally understand kind of both sides of that aspect. Where I start to fall away against Trayvon is the part where he approaches Zimmerman. Now, you can approach somebody, and we don't have detailed analysis of what happened between them at that time. But what happened was Zimmerman ended up on the ground, getting his head bashed into the concrete, yelling for help, multiple witnesses. There's 6 911 calls from that night, all being identified as Zimmerman yelling for help, and then a gunshot. So, from what I can tell, is that Zimmerman called the cops. The cops said, we don't need you to follow him. Head back to your truck. We'll have an officer meet you there. Now, whether Zimmerman went back to his truck or not, that's, somewhat debatable. He was found just across the street from where his truck was. Both Trayvon and him were found there. Zimmerman stayed at the scene. Everything that I can see is that from the outset, what I see is that Zimmerman did pretty much the right thing. Now, we can argue and debate and yell and scream and fight and bicker about, should he have gotten out of his truck, shouldn't he have? Let me tell you this. If you're a person, how many times have you been driving down the freeway, somebody's driving erratically, you catch up to them and follow them to get the license plate number and to keep the police informed, even after the cops tell you, you know what, back off. How many times? This is no different. He sees a suspicious person, they've had some break-ins, and you can say, oh, that's racial profiling, he's blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? Somebody who isn't supposed to be there, walking around in the middle of the night, that seems pretty suspicious to me. So I don't think that there is any way that we could say Zimmerman this was a racial shooting and that we're going to riot in the streets if he doesn't get justice. That's a bunch of bull crap. On the flip side of that is Trayvon had a record. He'd been suspended from school. He had beaten up on a bus driver. He had been caught with drugs. He had been caught doing graffiti. So it's not like Trayvon was this innocent kid. He kind of had some run-ins with the law. And you can't tell me that's a typical kid. Because I was a pretty typical kid. Didn't get suspended all the time. I didn't get caught with drugs. I didn't beat up a bus driver. So you can't say that, oh, that's just typical kid stuff, because that's bullcrap. If our society, and that's what typical kids do, then we've got a big problem. Big problem. So I think that Trayvon, trying to be a tough guy, trying to be a badass, walked up to Zimmerman and started crap. Why you following me, man? Pushed him, something ensued. Ended up with Zimmerman on the ground, getting his head bashed in. You can see the lesions on the back of his head. And at some point the gun being pulled and shot. And you can hear Zimmerman in the background yelling for help, 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 help. He was doing everything he could to not have to pull his weapon. Now everybody keeps giving him crap about, well, he said this and he said that. You know what? How many times have you been in a stressful situation can recall exactly to the second everything that happened? You can't. That's unrealistic. That's not how the human brain works. It's fight or flight. You are seeing tunnels. So don't, if you think it's a racial thing, come out and say it, but don't try and stack it up that, well, he's just lying and he's this and he's that. Just come out and say it. Just come out and say, I think it was a racially driven crime. Don't try and prove a point that doesn't exist. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. And I think that the community that is, threatening violence against people who are innocent, who didn't do anything, just because they don't get their own way, I think that's immature. This is not how America works. There was a child lost in this. He's 17, he's a child, period. There's a child lost in this. Let's step back and learn from it. There are 17-year-old kids killing each other in the streets of Chicago and Oakland and Los Angeles and Compton every day. No paying attention to that. No paying attention to that. Why is this such a big deal? Because at first everybody thought Zimmerman was a white guy on a black guy. And that's sad. It's sad. We have a president who makes statements before knowing the facts, and it divides us. I mean, George Bush could have come out and said, well, if I had a son, it could have looked like Zimmerman. I mean, seriously, how ridiculous would that have been? How ridiculous would that have been? And how much would he have been lambasted for it? I'm not a Bush guy, but I'm just saying. Is there racism in this country? Absolutely. Absolutely there is. But it's on both sides. And until we acknowledge that and quit catering to one side or another, we're never going to make progression in this country. It's all going to be division. So anyway, guys, that's my thought on it. Leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. Am I wrong? Am I losing it? What? But those are my 2 cents. You guys have a great night. Thanks for watching.